Okay. Yesterday, we started to talk about sprint and sprint planning under Scrum. And I mentioned that Scrum is a lightweight Agile framework. So Scrum is a way to do Agile. It's a way to practice the Agile methodology. We talked about the different Scrum events. We said one of them was sprint planning, which usually takes place first day of your sprint. And the expectation is you spend a couple of hours, depending on how long your time box is, how long your sprint is, to plan out which of the tasks, which of the stories or the requirements in your product backlog you move into the sprint backlog. So which of the stories in your product backlog you will carry out, you would execute or implement in that sprint. Now, typically the product owner would have prioritized the stories in the product backlog. So they already know the stories that will add the most significant value to business right now. So it's from those stories you choose the ones that can be carried out within the time box that has already been decided. So within the sprint. Then we talked about your daily scrum, which is a 15 minutes meeting, ideally, but that is not necessarily the case for every organization, but it's a prescription that you spend 15 minutes every day, work as a scrum master, discussing with the developers to figure out how they're doing and if anything needs to change, if they have any blocker. So the typical questions that you hear a scrum master ask a developer would be, what did you do yesterday? What do you plan to do today? And do you have any impediments, any blockers to you making progress? Then there's the sprint review, which happens either on the last day or second to the last day of the project, where the developers come to present what they have done for that sprint. Then finally, you have the sprint retrospective, where the developers discuss with the Scrum Master what has gone right and what has gone wrong. So the Scrum team members, including the product owner, if necessary, sit or meet to discuss what went right during the sprint and what went wrong, so that those things can be fixed for upcoming sprints. And the expectation is that at least one of them should be corrected for the next sprint. So we'll be continuing from where we stopped yesterday, and the next thing we'll be talking about is Scrum values. Scrum values. There are three key values Scrum has. The first one is transparency, which is every aspect of your software development lifecycle, every aspect of your project should be visible, should be transparent. You should, as a developer, be able to understand the business requirements. You should be able to see the business case. You'll be able to know why the task you are doing is important, why you should be doing the task, and what benefits the business stands to gain from the task. Now, another part to transparency is in the Scrum meetings or in the Scrum team, the people responsible for doing particular tasks or executing particular requirements get full credit for their role because they get to speak up, they can talk, everyone is equal in the Scrum team, and they get to be able to share their ideas, ask questions. So everyone can know who is responsible for what. You don't need to lobby anybody to gain importance. Just do your work and we'll know who is doing what. Another Scrum value is inspection. Inspection. An inspection essentially means timely check, regular check, quick regular checks on the progress of the Scrum team towards the sprint goal. The sprint goal is usually to achieve an increment, right? And that will be defined before the sprint starts. So there's usually a goal to develop or produce an increment. Inspection allows the Scrum Master check whether the team is moving towards that goal. But beyond the Scrum Master, it allows everyone, every member of the team, know how well they are doing and how much progress the team is making towards the goal. Then the third value of Scrum is adaptation. And adaptation essentially means the ability to change, the ability to adjust whatever we are doing right now so that we can achieve our goal, so that we can minimize negative impact. So if there's anything that needs to change, we can quickly adjust and change those things, either within the sprint through our daily stand-ups or our daily Scrum meetings, or after the sprint through retrospectives so that we can make adjustments. So these three values form the pillar of Scrum. These three values form the pillar of Scrum. Scrum is successful when these three values are in place, where there is regular inspection. So someone has to be checking up on the team to make sure that they are making steady progress towards the goal, which is the increment, what they want to produce. And where there are challenges or blockers or something impeding their progress, something stopping their progress, the team can adapt. We can try to find resolutions within the sprint to fix it. And if it's something that is that can be dealt with after the sprint or that comes up after a sprint, so during retrospective, the team members can discuss it and figure out a way to move on while resolving those issues. So these are the key values of Scrum. They're the pillars of Scrum. Transparency. Everyone gets to do their work, gets to talk about their work. And everyone can see what the project is about. No part of the project is hidden. You can, at least the part of the project that is assigned to you, you can know everything about it. So you're not just working blindly. And whoever does work can get maximum value, maximum exposure for the work they are doing, for their contribution in the project. So from these three pillars arise 5 values of Scrum. The core values are commitment. Every team member must be committed to the project, committed to the team, committed to making the project successful. committed to achieving the goals of the team. Courage is another key value of Scrum. The team members must have the courage to do the right thing and work on tough problems. Focus is another key value of Scrum. Everyone, because of the way the work has been scaled down, everyone gets to focus on the work that has been assigned for that sprint. And everyone focuses on achieving the goal of the sprint. Openness. You have to be open to correction, feedback from team members, but also open to changes, open to challenges that naturally you would encounter when performing work. And then the fifth value of respect. Every team member should respect the other team members. Everyone should respect their team members, and should consider them capable of doing their work, capable of working independently and performing the tasks that have been assigned to them. So these are the values of Scrum: commitment, courage, focus, openness, and respect. Question time. So what is Scrum? Who can define Scrum for us? Who can define Scrum? Who can tell us the meaning of an iteration? Who can tell us the 3 pillars of Scrum and the 5 values of Scrum? So let's talk about the characteristics of a Scrum team. A good Scrum team, an ideal Scrum team, should share the same norms and values, should share the same rules. The person who handles the rules, who knows all the rules of Scrum, is the Scrum Master. That's why there's master in the name of their role. They are supposed to be the master of Scrum. But the team members should share the same norms. When you work in an Agile team, you may hear them use the word cadence as the flow, the way the team is flowing, the way the team is working. And they want every team member to be able to work at the same pace, so that no team member is slowing things down and no team member is making things too difficult for the others. So they want a team member that can fit into their team, that can work with them at their pace. And that's some of the things people look out for during interviews. The candidate may be good. Maybe they have interviewed 20 candidates and they shortlisted 3 or 2. And these candidates are very good. The 3 of them, they are superb. Their interviews are excellent. Their CVs are excellent. You start looking at fit. Which of these people will fit? Which of them will most likely not run away from our organization or not give us problems or fit into the way we do work? Which of them will flow with us? And so team members should share the same norms and rules. The Scrum team, is accountable for delivery of their increment. So they are responsible, they are accountable. Every team member is accountable. So they have to work together to ensure that the increment is delivered. So you have to help your teammates if you can, if there's a need to. But you have to make sure whatever task is assigned to you, you deliver to make sure the increment is fulfilled. The Scrum team works autonomously. Ideally, no one should be able to disturb or bother the Scrum team. They should be self-organizing, self-controlling, self-governing, meaning the people inside should be the ones distributing work among themselves, telling themselves what to do. So you may have certain stories that have been assigned to the sprint backlog. Those stories will be broken down into tasks. Each story will be broken down into tasks, and those tasks will be assigned by the team members. The person breaking down the story into tasks is usually the people breaking down the story into tasks are usually the team members, and they assign it amongst themselves. So no one is coming from outside the Scrum team to assign anything to them. They have been given stories to work on. They figure out amongst themselves how to work on it. The skills within a Scrum team are usually balanced. You would hopefully not have a case where one member is extremely proficient, so much so of an expert that the others are just insignificant. Because what that would mean is one member of the team gets to do 90% of the work or majority of the work, and the others are not working as much. So the team, a Scrum team, is usually somewhat balanced. Of course, as human beings, there will be tendency that some people are greater at some things or better at some things than others, but the difference should not be too broad. So a Scrum team is usually 7 plus or minus 2. 7 plus or minus 2. Yesterday, when I was talking about it, if you remember, I said the development team is 5 plus or minus 2 because I'm counting the Scrum Master and the product owner as fixed. So if you do the math, you get the same thing. Altogether is 7 plus or minus 2. The product owner and Scrum Master are fixed. The development team will be either you have 3 members in the development team, or you have 7 members. If you are so if you minus 2, you have 3. If you add 2 to 5, you have 7. So ideally, that should be the maximum. So altogether, you should have between 9 members at a maximum or 5 members at a minimum. Now remember that your development team may be made up of your designers, developers, right? So designers, people designing the user interfaces, choosing the color, buttons, and how the application, how the use of the application should flow. So your UX experts and so on. Your testers may be in the development team. Another characteristics of a Scrum team is that the members should be co-located. They should be in the same place. Now, nowadays where we have remote work, that may mean that the members of the team should one way or the other be able to work together as if they are in the same place. So you have tools like Slack, like Teams that are used to ensure people are working as if they are in the same place. So I should be able to immediately shoot a Slack to my team member to ask questions. If I need clarification about anything, we should be able to jump on a call throughout the day. And that's why there are a lot of meetings in an agile environment. I should be able to jump on a call quickly to ask you questions and discuss things and come to a resolution and move on with work. Just to keep that promise of co-location, since it's no longer the reality for many people. At least being together physically is no longer a reality. The members of the team should work full-time in the team. members of a team should work full-time in the team. So this aligns with the principle of focus, right? The value of focus. They should be focused on the activity they are working on and give it their best. So let's start talking about some Scrum roles. And the first role we'll be discussing is the role of the product owner. We started to talk about the product owner yesterday. And I mentioned that some people call product owner, which is regrettable. I don't like the name. They say a product owner is a glorified BA, and the reasoning behind that is they're trying to explain to you, or what they're trying to say is the task a product owner does is business analysis task, which is true. The product owner essentially specializes on some aspects of business analysis, not even everything. So what the product owner does is to manage the Scrum backlog. So they create, maintain, prioritize, and describe product backlog items. So the product owner manages mainly the product backlog is what I want us to focus on. The product owner owns the product backlog and manages the product backlog. The items in the product backlog usually comes from the product owner eliciting requirements from stakeholders and putting those requirements, converting them to user stories and putting them in the product backlog. So those requirements become product backlog items, PBIs. So when we look at Jira, you see sometimes you can save things as PBIs, product backlog items, rather than saving them as user stories. So if there's a feature or there's some technical story that you don't want to call a user story, you can save it as a PBI, a product backlog item, which just means a requirement, either a solution requirement, a stakeholder requirement that you want to work on. You can also have the product owner is also responsible for managing the release of increments or portions of the product. So the product manager creates the release, the product owner creates the release plan and decides about deliveries or functionalities that are needed. They determine sprint goals. So what should we produce in this sprint? And how many sprints it will take for them to have a complete set of functionality that they want to release, or a complete set of products that they want to release. So it is possible that an increment may be enough, may be sufficient, may be enough to be released. And sometimes it may take several increments in order to get a sizable portion of product that they want to release, in order to get a minimum viable product. So a minimum viable product is the smallest amount of a product that has all the functionalities a business needs at a particular time. That may be achievable with one increment. An increment may be enough for you to get what you need to move forward with. But in some cases, it may not be enough. So an increment may be enough for a minimum viable product. And in some cases, you may need 2 increments to get your minimum viable product. So it depends on what is needed by the organization and how much work will need to get that done. The product owner is responsible for stakeholder management. This is worth emphasizing. External stakeholders should not communicate directly with the Scrum team. If you remember, I said the Scrum team works as autonomously as possible. The Scrum team works as independently as possible. So The members of the Scrum team should be free from the harassment of stakeholders. They should not have anything to do with stakeholders. So it's the product owner that discusses with external stakeholders and then communicates these requirements to the developers and other members of the Scrum team. The product owner works closely with the Scrum team to ensure all members understand the requirements. The product owner is responsible for checking and accepting sprint results during the sprint review session. So the developers present the results of the sprint, the increments they have developed, to the product owner, and the product owner either accepts them or rejects them. So in summary, these are the core responsibilities of a product owner. A product owner maximizes the value of the product by ensuring that the right work is done at the right time. Maximizes the value of the product. We have this very big product that we want to create. We want to create a bridge from Canada to US. But in the meantime, before building that bridge, people need a bridge from St. John's to Nova Scotia. Right? And that is on the way to the US. So why not, if that's the most important thing we need now, why not build that first? And then we'll continue from there. At least if you have crossed to Nova Scotia by road, then you can continue. Extending that bridge. Right? So a product owner is the one that will talk to business to understand what exactly will be the most important part of the product that they need now, and make sure that the developers do that first. The product owner communicates the product vision to the Scrum team. A product owner decides on official releases. A product owner manages business functional expectations. They manage functional expectations for a product, and they communicate these expectations to the development team. The product owner monitors progress and leads the team. The product owner owns the project on behalf of the company. That's why they are called product owners. They own the project. They are the CEO of the product. They are not the boss of everybody or of anybody. They can't fire anybody, but they own the product. So they speak on behalf of the product. Whatever they say about the product is what the other people have to do. They have the final say on the product. They don't have any control over anybody. How they lead the team is through influence, not authority. So being nice, knowing when to be stern, nice, flow well, talk, and get people doing what you want. Get people to see you as the authority on the product and respect your views when it comes to the product. But you don't have power over them. You can't fire anybody. You can't talk to anybody anyhow. The product owner creates product strategy and develop actionable roadmaps. The product owner creates product strategy and develops actionable roadmap. So product strategy, what are the features or minimum viable product we should be focused on? How are we going to deliver the product? How many team members would we need? What are the skill set of those team members? What sprints, how many sprints do we want to do in a month? How many sprints do we want to do in a quarter? what is the workload for this sprint. So functional decomposition, breaking down the tasks and assigning them to maybe quarters. These are the kinds of things. That's what's called a roadmap. Right? That is, a roadmap is the road we will take to get to the solution. Right? So the product owner creates that roadmap. If we do all this in quarter one, and we do all this in quarter two, and we do all this in quarter three, and we do all this in quarter four, in the fourth quarter, then we should get to the solution. Mind you, Agile does not have a deadline for products. The expectation is that the development team will know how much work they can do, and we determine when the product finishes. But still, there has to be a roadmap of what we should do first and why. What are the key things we should be focused on doing in the first month or in the first quarter, and why? So all those are decisions that will be made by the product owner. The product owner will lead that with business. We'll have those kinds of discussion with business. So strategy. Now, in all my discussion about product owner, you start getting a sense of the product owner is just essentially a BA that can handle strategy, handle requirement analysis, requirement elicitation, and requirement analysis very well. So a BA that specializes on that is a product owner that knows Agile, that has the Agile mindset, can handle requirement elicitation, can handle strategy. So be in those rooms, discuss with the leadership, understand product strategy, create product roadmaps, right? Elicit requirements, convert those requirements to user story if necessary, and ensure that those requirements are communicated so they can have influence. That will be your ideal product owner. However, even in the product owner space, there are many product owners that, for example, may not be good at user stories. So let's look at the knowledge areas we're saying a product owner needs. Strategy, analysis. Number one. Number two, elicitation and collaboration. So essentially, this means requirement gathering, right? Number three, a product owner needs RAD, requirements, analysis, and design. So these are the three core skills of a product owner. A BA will know the 6 knowledge areas. A product owner needs to focus on these 3. That's why they call them glorified BA. They need to focus on these 3, yet they earn more than BAs. Now, as a product owner moves up, the product owner would usually get a BA under them to do the user stories and acceptance criteria. So this gets taken care of. The product owner just does strategy analysis and requirement elicitation. These are the core skills of the product owner. And the BA under them does the requirement analysis. So they get the requirements in raw form. They understand what the product needs. They understand where the business wants to go and what the business wants to achieve. Then they get a BA under them, and the BA will be asking questions from the product owner. So let's talk about the role of a BA in an agile team. because that's what we're already talking about. A BA can serve as part of the development team. So that 5 plus or minus 2 of the development team. You can, in some cases, you have a BA as part of the development team. And that BA's role will be to communicate with the product owner, understand what the product owner wants, and communicate those needs to the development team. So this product owner has to have, or this BA has to have some technical, or may need some technical business BA skills. Right? So they will be hearing a lot of technical language and so on. Right? So they may need to be able to break requirements down into more technical user stories. So a BA may find themselves in this part of the team in an agile environment. And that's fine. A BA may actually be employed as the product owner, which is great. And that's why this course is structured this way. That we're teaching you business analysis, teaching you product ownership, and next we'll go into Scrum Master and the Scrum Master role. Because as a BA, you may be here, but you may also be the product owner. And so what the product owner does is just part of what you have been trained to do. Understand what the organization wants to achieve, apply your strategy analysis skills, ask questions, 5 whys, get to the root cause, see the gap, understand the product, elicit requirements from the stakeholders, and then communicate those requirements, maybe as user stories and acceptance criteria, or if you have a BA working with you, communicate requirements to the BA, and the BA writes the user stories and acceptance criteria for you. And so you will just be in the meeting to answer the team's questions once in a while. So a BA can work as a product owner. A BA can work as part of the development team. One more thing, a BA can work with a product owner. So the BA working with a product owner on the business side of things will be the BA helping the product owner write user stories. So like a business BA, they'll be helping the product owner write user stories and acceptance criteria, and be sometimes representing the product owner in some meetings. So they'll be acting as a product owner in some meetings. So you can either be a product BA, you can be the product owner yourself, or a technical BA working with the developers. A BA in this space, it's easier for a BA in this space to rise to be a product owner if they want, because they are working with the product owner regularly. So natural progression, if they want, is to be a product owner, because in many instances, they can represent the product owner on Scrum teams. Any question? Moving on. there are instances where you would have multiple Scrum teams. So in these cases, you have multiple product owners, multiple Scrum masters, and multiple development teams. This is usually called Scrum of Scrum. Scrum of Scrums. So cases where you have many Scrum teams. Okay. Give me a sec. Okay. So in these cases, what applies is maybe you have a very big development project and you want to split those or that development project between different development teams. So each team will have their own Scrum Master and their own product owner. Each product owner will be handling some aspect of the product. You may now have the key product owner for the overall product that is managing all the other product owners, right? So that person will be having sync up meetings with the different product owners in the different Scrum teams. Right? You have a Scrum Master that is overseeing all the other Scrum Masters, right? Just checking up to make sure everything is going on well. So many times you may have a Scrum of Scrum meeting where each Scrum team will send a representative, right, to the main meeting. So each Scrum team, because you have 4 Scrum team here, each one is sending one person, right, to the meeting, right, so that the main people can know what is going on in each of the different Scrums, each of the different Scrum teams. So that's what's called a Scrum of Scrum. Usually for a product owner, this doesn't create any form of complication in any way. You already know the requirements you are in charge of, or the part of the project you're in charge of, and your own goal is to make sure your team knows what they are doing and they deliver the increments in your own Scrum team, right? But the Scrum of Scrum is mainly important for the Scrum Master, especially the major Scrum Master. That person is in charge of all the different Scrum teams, right? I will be coordinating with the other local Scrum Masters to make sure that everything is in sync and what they are doing aligns with that is the project is going as it should go, and what they're doing aligns with the project objective. So we'll talk about that in more detail later. I just wanted to put that out there, that it is possible to have multiple Scrum teams, and these different Scrum teams will be doing different parts of the project. And for each team, each team will have their own product owner, their own Scrum Master. So next, let's talk about the minimum viable product, which is something we already touched on. The minimum viable product, is a product that includes the core features that a business wants without any advanced features. Minimum viable product. A product that includes all the core features that a business needs at this particular time. The minimum viable product is useful in testing the viability of a product. So we want to develop this very great thing. Right? Let's look at the core features that we need out of that great thing we want to develop that we have never developed before or that no one has ever developed before, and create the fastest, smallest working version of that product that contains just the key features we need. And we can test that minimum viable product to see if it's desirable. Some people use this in business where maybe you want to create a website, a platform to do something. I think there's a clothing company that did something. They did something like that. I forget what they are called now. It's a clothing company abroad. What did they do? They wanted to create this online platform to sell clothes for women. So what they did was, rather than go to spend a lot of money buying inventory, buying clothes, right, then putting the clothes online to see whether people will buy, instead, they took pictures of the kinds of clothes they want to produce and put those pictures online on their website and hosted the website, so published it, made it available to people. And then people started visiting the website. And as people were clicking on the different designs, right, they would tell them, okay, order in advance. They got to see the products people would really like, the products people would really buy. So that website that did not have functional products or real products is their minimum viable product. If their goal is to quickly get a sense of what people will buy. So the website without real product is the minimum viable product. So a product that includes core features without any advanced functionality. So in this case, the website will not include anything like payment gateway or any subscription or any complicated thing, just pictures and maybe a form for people to fill so that they would know what people are interested in, or just a counter, something to count which of the products or how many people click on a particular product, so that they will be able to, at the end of the day, get a report. Know that, okay, people are very, very interested in this, our product design. People are not interested in this particular product. And so they can go and buy raw materials for that product and produce that product that people are interested in. So a minimum viable product is a product including the core functionalities that a business needs at the time. So you want to produce a bulb, a minimum viable product, maybe a candle, right? A minimum viable product, maybe a candle. The smallest instance of your product that can deliver the value you want. And the goal here is we want to produce a bulb because we want light. Candles can give us light. So that's a minimum viable product. Lantern can give us light. So that's another minimum viable product. Okay, so let's see an example. So the bulb in this case is our final product. Let's see an example, because people mistake the agile process and increments and minimum viable product for phases in waterfall. So a minimum viable product is not this, and the agile process is not focused on this, where you want to make a car, and you break down the process of making the car into steps. That is waterfall. For agile and The meaning of minimum viable product is we want to make a car, but we can use some of our resources to make a scooter first. So let's make a scooter, because why are we making the car? That's the question Agile focuses on. Why? Because we want to move. So what is this minimum product that can help us move? Let's make that first. Then in the next iteration, so the next sprint, this may be the new increment. So we add more features to this minimum product. We add the steering wheel feature. In the next sprint, maybe we increase the tires, change some things, we turn that previous increment into a bicycle. In the next sprint, we add motorized engine and all that, and we create another viable product. And in the final sprint, we create the car. So our focus is on something useful. Yes.
Prof, I have a question.
Yes.
So with this your minimum viable product in Agile, it means it can be totally different from the final product.
Yes.
Totally different.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Yes, it can be totally different. The goal is that we're incrementally moving towards the final product. In this example, this one, you could say, yes, we're incrementally moving towards, but we're not focused on achieving the goal of the final product in each of the phases. So phase one created a tire, you can't, or a wheel, you can't use that to move. Phase two maybe created the frame of the car, you can't use that to move. So you are not deriving any value until you get to the end of the product, which is the waterfall approach. But in Agile, we want the smallest level of the product that can help us derive the value that we want from the final product. So yes, let's get started with that. We know that in future, we may repurpose this, we may change part of it, we may do whatever to get the next product that can help us achieve the value we want. Right? In some cases, it may mean that we can continue to add features to this and improve it, especially in software, for example. Or in some cases, it may mean an entire redesign. Maybe we have gotten feedback from our stakeholders that they don't like this, they don't like that, they want bigger tires, they want this and that. So we can create another product. Then continue to work with our stakeholders, continue to get feedback, continue to get more requirements, continue to try out the product and see if we can deliver the value we want. And if we can't deliver, or if we're getting feedback that they want something better, we add those new features. So at every instance, we're getting some value from the product rather than waiting to the end to get value. So what is the role of a Scrum Master? A Scrum Master's job in a Scrum team is to facilitate communication. The Scrum Master is the one who knows the most about Scrum. That's why they are the master. Their job is to facilitate communication, to make sure that everyone can communicate with one another. Everyone on the Scrum team has that free flow of communication. They can talk, they can ask questions from one another. If there are blockers, if they need access to particular team members, the Scrum Master is the one who facilitates those kind of communication channels, making sure that they can meet. The Scrum Master protects the team. Scrum Master protects the team. Scrum Master does not allow any external entity interfere with the team. if projects have been assigned, if tasks have been done, the Scrum Master's role is to make sure that tasks are going on and no one can bring anything else from outside that has not been decided upon for a sprint. The Scrum Master is the one responsible for Jira administration. So for tool maintenance, Jira is just one tool. There's DevOps. Some people are using ClickUp now, or ClickUp is trying to sell themselves as an alternative to Jira. But essentially, any project management tool can be used. The Scrum Master is the one that will manage the tool, will be the one entering the details, updating things on the tool, and making sure everything with the tool is going on well, updating progress and so on. Ideally, well, when it comes to tasks, the team members move and update their tasks themselves. We'll see all that. But the Scrum Master makes sure everything is kept up to date with the tool, the project management tool. The Scrum Master creates reports. Reports like on-down charts, team velocity. We'll talk about all this later. The Scrum Master is the one responsible for creating the report to see how the team is doing, to see how much progress is being made towards the final product, to see if there's a need for more resources, maybe more to employ more team members, more developers, more designers, and so on. So the Scrum Master creates these reports and shares them with the product owner. The Scrum Master facilitates meetings, right? So he's the one who leads the daily stand-up, and all the other Scrum ceremonies. The Scrum Master is the one who knows the most about Agile, so they're expected to teach the other team members Agile principles. The Scrum Master supports the team, settles agreements, makes peace, do coffee runs, get bagels, make sure everything is going on well. The Scrum Master removes blockers, make sure that if there's any team member that needs to do something for another team member to be able to move forward with their project, they make sure that that thing gets done. Right? They talk to the team member and make sure whatever conflict is existing is resolved so that increments can be achieved. Like I mentioned yesterday, the Scrum Master does not need to know anything about the project per se. They just need to see the number of tasks, the number of stories that have been assigned, and make sure everyone is doing what they are supposed to do to move the stories or the tasks forward. As long as the tasks are moving forward, they don't even need to know what tasks are being done or what the tasks entail. I should quickly mention that anyone can be a member, can be a Scrum Master. Any team member can act as a Scrum Master because in some cases, some organizations don't even have dedicated Scrum Masters. Some organizations had a Scrum Master and the Scrum Master left mid-project, got better offer, got a visa to another country or something. And so anyone in an Agile team that is knowledgeable in Agile should be able to step up and be a Scrum Master. And that's why we're teaching you the role of a Scrum Master. As a BA, if you're in an Agile team, or you may be expected to be able to step up to act as a Scrum Master. And even if not so, right, their organizations are very structured, well structured. They have the right staff and everything. They will still see you as an asset when you put it on your CV that you can act as a Scrum Master, right? And we'll show you how to do that later when we get to that chapter of the course. So they'll see that this person has the capacity to step up and lead Scrum meetings, facilitate Scrum meetings, act as a Scrum coach, manage the team, and make sure that increments are being delivered if the need arises. Yes, Laura, you have a question.
Yeah.
Laura, I can't hear you.
Oh, sorry, I didn't know I didn't know. So I'm just thinking, how do we balance the emotional chaos that goes on between switching from a servant leader to a manager? Because earlier on you said you lead by influence, and I know that practically in some work places, and when you deal with some individuals, there needs to be a way to enforce people doing their job, because it can be frustrating when you have to beg people, to do their job. When it comes to the servant leader thing, how does one manage that? That emotional battle. If you switching from where you are supposed to, just be begging them to do, and then to a point where you're supposed to also feel like, come on. I don't know. I'm just asking how to balance that, because some of us are used to you issue query. If you don't do your work, you issue query, but and those things are documented and eventually forms, part of your maybe your assessments for at the end of the year or something. But I'm feeling like it's different when you're insisting we lead by influence and not by those rules.
Okay. Thank you for that question. How do you balance being a servant leader and yet being a manager? The Scrum Master is not the boss of anybody. In an agile team, it's like being in a club. The Scrum Master is the DJ. Scrum Master does not need to know the lyrics of the song. They just need to know that the song flows with the songs they are playing, flow with the beat. They are not supposed to force anybody to dance. If you like, dance. If you like, don't. They want everybody to dance. What they do is to create an environment where everybody can dance. They are not your boss. The developers have their bosses. So there will be maybe development manager and so on. The Scrum Master cannot issue query to anybody. The agile environment itself is supposed to be enough to motivate people to work. So if you come to work every day and in our daily Scrum, we ask you, the Scrum Master asks you, what did you do yesterday? And you say nothing. Won't you be ashamed in the front of everybody, right, including the product owner and your other team members? So it's just like you're in class and your teacher asks you about assignment that you gave everybody and say, where's your assignment? You say you don't have it or you didn't do it. You'll be ashamed. What do you plan to do today? and you say nothing. You see, it's not possible. It's not likely. Not that it's not possible. It's not likely. The Scrum Master is not your boss. He's not going to say, hey, if number one, maybe you're a developer, you're an excellent developer, or you know your stuff well. He has no right. He doesn't even know anything about the programming languages you are dealing with or anything. He has no right to say, why are you not? No. What the Scrum Master can do is present it as a risk to the product owner who sees it, they'll meet. They can report it to the higher ups who talk to the development manager, who is the one now keeping track of what their developers are doing. But the Scrum Master has no power to say, hey, do your work or don't do your work. Okay. The same way the DJ has no power to say you must dance. Scrum Master is simply a DJ playing the songs and hoping that everybody dances the way they want, as long as the party is going on and at the end of the day, everybody is happy and leaves. The Scrum Master is okay. They have no right to say, you must dance, you must not dance. If you don't dance, we won't, whatever. But if there is a fight going on in the club, the Scrum Master can run to the owners of the club or security to say, come this side, something is not working well. Right? And then the owners, the people that own the club and know the theme of the club and what the club is about, can now work that out, can sort that out. But it's not the Scrum Master's jurisdiction or right to tell anyone to do anything. I hope that answers your question.
Okay, sir. Yes, sir.
Then the third role in an Agile team or in a Scrum team is the dev. We call them Scrum team members, which is better because they are not just made up of development team or of developers rather. But most commonly, people will call them the dev team. So the dev team has one key characteristic, and I've discussed this already. They are self-organizing. So they know who will do what work. They know how to assign work between themselves. Right? Sometimes some of the bosses will be part of the dev team. Some of the bosses of the development team may be part of the dev team just to make sure everything is going smoothly. And sometimes the developers will have similar ranks. Your development team may be made up of designers, user experience experts, testers, solution delivery teams, and your developers, your coders. So let's talk about some of these different people. So one of the roles that is common in a development team is the designer. The designer creates user interfaces. So forms, windows, pop-ups, all the things you can see in a software, the things human beings can see and interact with. Maybe a report, the way the report is displayed, the organization of buttons on forms or the form itself. These are the things designers create. They don't work on the functionality of the buttons, but they create the way the form looks and the way things are organized and arranged. They don't work on what the buttons will do or what the menus will do. That is the job of the developer. So what they do is what is called the front end. They work on the front end of your applications. Very close to the designer is the user experience expert. Their own focus is on the flow of the application. The flow. They are looking at how a user would experience using this application. What experience will people get when they use your application? So the questions they seek to answer is, how will different people expect to use your application to accomplish whatever task they want to accomplish? How will different people expect to flow through your application? Say your application is about filing your taxes. How will a normal person expect your application to work so that they can file their taxes? What do they expect to see first and do first? What do they expect to be next? And so on, till they accomplish the goal of filing taxes. So that's the job of the user experience expert. And their goal is to design the flow of events in your application to enable people to accomplish tasks or their goals. The flow of events. So what's presented first? What comes next? What comes next? So while the designer designs the form, the UX expert can organize the forms. They can work with designers to, even in designing the forms, to tell them what should come first, what should come next inside the form, and then how those forms should be organized. So if you remember when we talked about process modeling, we say process models help us model the flow of activities in a process or in a use case. So US experts are not business analysts, but they are also creating the activities for a use case using forms, using these forms or UI, user interfaces that the designer creates. When we talked about use cases, we said a use case can tell us or can help us know which UIs will be needed. If you have withdraw cash as a use case, it means we need a user interface for people to be able to withdraw cash. Now, the user experience expert will be the one to organize the flow and say, okay, when people come to this ATM, the first thing they want to do is enter PIN, right? Not print receipt first, right? They want to enter PIN first. And after they enter their PIN, or after they insert their card, they enter their PIN. After they enter the PIN, they want to do this next and do this next until they accomplish the withdraw cash goal. The designer is interested in how things look. Right. So these are two key roles in your design team: UX and UI designers. The UX person is interested in the interaction. They will create prototypes and wireframes to show the flow of activities in a system, where BAs typically create models like process modeling and so on. They create prototypes and wireframes, so pictures that look like the real thing, that look like the real system, to show how activities will take place through the system. We will talk about and show how to create wireframes and prototypes in this course. It is not the job of a BA to do that, but it is a good to have skill. It's a good to have skill that in some cases, some environments may not have designers, and they expect you to communicate how you want the interface to look to developers. So you have to be able to step up and use these tools for prototyping or wireframing to create, to show how you envision the system. Right? To show how you envision the system so that your developers can implement what you're thinking. So the UX expert will do research on users and how they would like to use the system, what frustrates them about systems. Right? You may have two different softwares, and people will say, I prefer this software than this software. I showed an example earlier on in the course when I used LucidChat and I switched to, what was the other platform, Draw.io, to do the same thing. And there was a task that was easily accessible on LucidChat, but was not easy to access on Draw.io, even though it was there right in front. That's differences in user experience with different applications. So the LucidChat people did their research so much that they know how to show. They showed that you can click on this and you get this result in such a way that any or almost any user can understand it. The Draw.io people did it in another way, but may not be easy for every user to understand. So UX people do research on how people will use applications so that people can enjoy using the application that you are designing. You have the design experts, their job is to pick colors, visual design, there's appearance of things. So you'd have people like graphic designers choosing fonts, choosing layouts of your product. So next, let's talk about personas. I think we glossed over personas somewhere early in the course. So one tool BAs use a lot, and UX experts also use, is the persona. The persona is just an imagination of a likely customer or a likely user of your system and how you think they would use the system. And the reason why you are imagining, you are creating this imaginary user in your mind is to understand that user's journey through your system. So if I imagine that a secondary school or a high school student will use my application, I should be able to embody that high school student. What are their frustrations? What are their issues? What are their joys? When they are using my system, what will be their disposition? What would they want to see first? What would they want to do on my system? What would they want to see first? How would they approach the system? Right? Then you can think of, okay, another customer may be an 80-year-old woman. So usually you give them a name. This woman is obviously retired and she wants to use my system to do something. So let's say I'm designing a tax system and this 80-something-year-old woman wants to use my system to file her taxes. What will she expect to see? How would she experience my system? So these are the ways a BA would think through, and a user experience expert would think through the use of a system with personas. Okay. So it may be in designing a course like this one. A BA may say, who are our potential customers? So let's think of different types of customers. Customer A may be a student. in a university that is about to graduate. So what would they be interested in seeing? What would they be interested in listening to for this course? What are the things we need to communicate with them? Students in the university will already be very busy. So maybe we should shorten the videos for these students, right? So that they can watch it in small chunks, different things like that. So by thinking about these different personas, you can come up with designs of your system that will suit the different personas, that will accommodate as many personas as possible. So this is how you would create a persona. For this example, this person came up with 3 potential users and gave them names, which is typical in when you are creating personas. You give them names. So they came up with, there are 3 likely people that can use the system we're designing. You can have a casual user, a business user, or a power user. So they gave their casual user the name Pete. They say, Pete may use our system. He uses it on his phone. So most of the features it will be using will be phone features. He uses the phone to make and use our phone to make calls, or use the phone to make calls and contact and sends text messages and takes pictures with the phone. Pete will always have the phone with him. Then you have the business user. So in this case, the product is a phone. The business user, Jennifer, what does she want? She wants a simple phone. But that phone should function as an integrated device where all our business emails, our business tools can sync with the phone. So Jennifer wants to easily read emails and call back the sender of the emails. What does Jennifer need? She needs popular mail server integration. By breaking down your likely customers, rather than just grouping everybody as customer and designing for all size fit all, by breaking down your customers or users into personas, you can tease out, you can use that to elicit requirements for your system and figure out, okay, this type of person will need this feature from my system. This type of person will need these types of features from my system. So by thinking of users in form of personas that way, you can come up with likely requirements for your system. So that's why BAs use this. BAs use personas when they are eliciting requirements, when they are brainstorming. So you can put up personas like this and say, well, we have thought about it. These are the 3 likely types of users for our system. So you people that I'm brainstorming with, the stakeholders, what do you think Pete will need? Pete is a student. He only uses our system casually. What do you think he will need? And people say, oh, if Pete is a student, yeah, students will want this, student will want that from our system. Students may want this and that. So you look at the likely population of people that will be using your system. And from that population, you create personas. This is another example of a persona. So in this style, you are creating the persona, one frame or one card per persona. So this persona is focused on Rachel, rather than here where we created 3 different personas in one card, right? So this persona is focused on Rachel, who is a reliability researcher. And then you create a bio for Rachel so that everybody can join you in imagining what Rachel will need and how Rachel will behave with our system. So Rachel is a relatively recent homeowner with 2 young kids. She has had major frustrations in the recent past when our 2-year-old dishwasher started leaking water all over the kitchen floor about 2 months after the warranty expired. So we can see Rachel's bio. She's a mother with 2 young kids, and she's a homeowner. What are Rachel's needs? So we start imagining. Rachel cares about reliability above all and is willing to take the time to do her research and compare multiple brands on third-party review websites. Details about quality, warranty, parts, and service costs must be easily available for her to consider a product. So you see, we are already figuring out the things we need to suit this imaginary customer that we can have, because we feel that there will be many people in the population like her that are research-oriented people, and we want to know the details of whatever product that we put on the website we're developing. Initial price is less critical for her compared to total cost of ownership. So behaviors take several weeks to make a decision on which appliance to purchase. Start with comparison on sites such as Wirecutter, Consumer Report, and Reddit. Keeps a list of potential options in a spreadsheet. Focuses on reliability and warranty. Right? So this is a persona. This is how you create a persona. So you imagine the people that would use your product and try to create profiles for them and figure out what their needs are and how they would behave when using your system. So this is a good place to stop for today, and tomorrow we'll continue the discussion around Scrum artifacts.